Good morning. It is Cinco de Mayo. Welcome, 7th graders, as you guys filter in. It is May 5th at 12:30. Hi, Tristan, welcome. I was just going through your guys' comic books. I saw you got started on one, Tristan. You had I think 2 panels on yours, so good job getting started on that. Hopefully you keep working on that and get it done sometime this week. Start going over this week's project, which is going to be a movie project. So this will kind of pull in things that we've learned throughout the year, both parts of plot, characterization, and theme development, and kind of just mix those all together to see how much you guys remember about plot, parts of plot, characterization, and theme development. So do you have any questions before I get started over the comic book assignment or any of the assignments from last week, or are you good to go for the new week's assignment? Also, if you have any questions about the new packet, feel free to type those in, and I'll try to answer those as we go along too. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I'll just get started. Okay, so what you guys are going to be doing this week is a movie project. This will probably take a little bit longer than the other projects. Hey, Kennedy, welcome. If you want to do some 7th grade work, you are more than welcome to stick around. We are going to create movies. So, Tristan, I see you're confused on what to do. Are you confused on what to do for the movie project that I'm just talking about, or the comic project from last week? Remember, there's a slight delay, so when you type something, I say something, there's always going to be a couple of dead minutes in between before you can respond. If it's the comic assignment that you're talking about from last week, all you have to do for the okay, that's why I was kind of thinking. All you have to do for the comic is create a 6-panel story. So I saved Ethaniel's as an example. He said that I could use it as an example. So let's see here. Pull that up. Okay, yeah. So here's an example by Ethaniel. His is a little bit longer than I required. I think I said 6 panels, but he came up with 9. Basically, he just came up with a story that his grandfather or uncle, I think. Yeah, his uncle robbed a bank. He had the superpower to teleport and turn invisible. So he finds out about the crime in the 3rd panel. The 1st panel, he really just tells you what his powers are. And then he confronts his uncle. The uncle refuses, and then he kind of defeats his uncle with his power. So it's pretty straightforward. He tells you what his powers are. He tells you what the problem is. He confronts the villain of the story. He defeats the villain of the story, and then he tells you what happens afterwards, right? He tells you that he turned his uncle in by using his power and to teleport him and turn invisible, and then he kind of has the little aftermath, so the end type story. So your story doesn't have to be super complicated. You can kind of piggyback off of his idea. You can do whatever powers you want. You just need a main character who can or might not have powers. You need a problem for him to overcome, and then you need to show how he overcomes it. Since you don't have a ton of artwork to pick from, you want to kind of keep your story as simple as possible. How in the world am I supposed to make a movie? Okay, so Kennedy, I was just getting ready to explain that, so I'm glad you're here, and I'll get started on that. So the movie project has 5 different components. Okay, so what you're going to do for the movie problem or project is you're going to create an outline for your movie. You're going to create a movie poster, come up with a script, a soundtrack, and then eventually film a movie. So those are the 5 objectives that you have to accomplish. We'll go through how to do each specific one, and in a couple of the steps, you have a choice of how you're going to do it. I'm not super artistic, so I gave you 2 options for a movie poster. like examples rather. Ones, if you were kind of artistic, you could do something kind of like the Shrek one. Hey, Hunter, welcome. The other ones, if you're kind of like me and you're not very artistic, for the Superman movie, they literally just have like a pair of glasses and then they say the name of the movie. So this would be if you're very artistic and you're good at drawing. This would be if you have limited artistic abilities, such as myself. Kennedy is a 6th grader. She's hilarious if you've never talked to her before. So welcome her to the class. Glad you're here, Nick. All right, so go over the first option, right? So for your plot outline, you have 2 options. You can either do a storyboard or you can do a graphic organizer. When you go to the Google Classroom, right here, good job, Nick. You click the storyboard or plot diagram graphic organizer, and then you can do either one you want. If you click the Pixton link, it's going to be the exact same thing as the last comic book assignment you guys had, where you guys create a comic book and you do the story that way. You kind of just outline the story because you won't have enough panels to do every single event that happens in your movie, but it's kind of like an outline if you do that. If you choose the other option, the graphic organizer, you're going to get this pulled up. It's just a simple Word document. You list your hero, your villain, and again, your story doesn't necessarily have to have a villain. If you want to make your story more man versus nature, like you're dealing with some sort of natural catastrophe, perhaps a disease piggybacking off of real life, then your villain or protagonist, or I did that backwards, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was a little sleepy when I did this. I had the antagonist and protagonist backwards. My bad. But yeah, so your protagonist is your hero, your antagonist is the villain. Your antagonist doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It can be like animals, zombies, a disease, a tornado, an earthquake, whatever. And then I listed an option for 2 supporting characters. You don't necessarily have to have supporting characters, but you can. And then you list your story's conflict. I gave you a few examples. Normally you can explain the conflict of a story in a couple of words or a sentence. And Empire Strikes Back, I gave you the example. They're trying to escape the Empire. So like the basic outline is just escape. In Shrek, he's trying to get rid of the forest or the fairy tale creatures from his swamp. Everything else that happens is really Shrek just trying to accomplish that goal, to get rid of all these annoying fairy tale creatures. And then in Back to the Future, I gave that as an example just because I know Mr. Nelson will probably check through this, and that's his favorite. He's just trying to get back to his own time. So the conflict is what's going to drive your plot. Normally a conflict won't be as simple as just defeating a villain. Normally the villain and the hero come to clash because of the conflict. So like in Shrek, the Duke is the actual villain, but his goal to get Fiona and Shrek's goal to get rid of the fairy tale creatures only overlaps because of the 2 characters' conflicts, right? Same with Back to the Future. Marty is only the only villain to that really is the bully. I think his name's Biff or something like that, and he's only Marty's villain because Marty's been shot back in time and is kind of like stuck in the past. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a conflict. So kind of like the situation causes the villain and the hero to have a conflict. And then you also need to have a theme for your story, and the theme's just your overall message that you're going to teach. We did Ricky Tikki Tavi earlier in the year. That's a pretty easy one. The story's overall message is that you need to be brave in the face of danger. Shrek tries to teach you to be happy with who you are. And I gave just some examples of other common themes. The need to protect others, finding love, importance of friendship, goodwill overcome evil, dangers of technology, dangers of following the crowd, or any other number of themes. You can just type in common themes in a Google search, and you will get like literally dozens and dozens. You notice the same themes kind of show up constantly. in stories. A lot of times, even like we talked about earlier, stories seem to just kind of be retelling the same lessons over and over. But that's step one, right? So when we're doing the movie project, the movie outline, that's step one. So you're either going to do this graphic organizer or the storyboard for your movie. And you can pick whichever one you think is more fun or easier if you want to go that route. Step two. Step two is a movie poster. So for a movie poster, a few of you guys showed up a little bit late, which is fine. But for the movie poster, I was trying to explain I'm not the best artist, so I don't necessarily expect you to be the best artist either. If you are very artistic, more power to you. Feel free to go crazy for your movie poster. But the main thing here is you want to catch the essence of your movie. So I gave you two examples here. One, if you're more artistic and you want to like draw it out. Or two, if you just want to kind of use symbols, right? So like for Karate Kid, they just kind of darkened the image of a character kicking, and then they gave the title, and that's about it. Now you have a couple of ways you can accomplish this. When you go to the Google Classrooms, the movie poster will bring up a Google drawing, which is just kind of like a board where you can draw. It's going to be difficult to draw on a computer, but you can go that route if you want. Your other option is you can just click this Google Doc, and then you can type the name of your movie and then find pictures from the internet and then paste them on here, almost like a collage, if you want to go that route. And then the third route would be if you just wanted to hand draw your poster, and then you can turn that in at the end of the quarter when you turn in your packet. Any one of those is fine. And I'm not going to hold it against you if you're not super artistic. Go with the collage route. If you want to try the Google drawing, I tried to do an example one on this last night, and it did not work out well at all. So I actually deleted that because I didn't want to give you guys a bad example. So your next option after your movie poster is your script. The script you only really got one option for. For the script, you just have to write what's going to happen. It should come out similar to a reader's theater. We've done reader's theaters mainly in intervention, but we also did the Anne Frank play. Also, I think your class did the WUB, but I can't remember for sure if we did that. But this is just a couple of lines from the WUB reader's theater. The one about the telepathic space pig. Can't remember if we did that with your class or not. I know I did it with 8th grade, but I can't remember if 7th grade did it. Basically, you just put the name of a character, what the character says, the name of the next character, what that character says. You want to try to make the plot continue through dialogue as much as possible in the script. You can still have action in it if you want, but for your script, it's mainly just what people are saying. You can put in between the lines what actions are taking place if you want. You don't have to rate every single thing, like the character walks from one side of the room to the other. You don't need to type that in the script. But if it's like a big event, then you want to include that in the script, like the hero stabs the villain or something. That would be important enough that you would want to include that somewhere. Your script should encompass your entire short film. Your film should be between 2 to 5 minutes. I think I actually wrote around 5 minutes, but I would be okay with as little as 2. Probably a max of 5. You can go over if you want, but 5 minutes is probably actually going to be longer than you need. When you go to the Google Classroom, for this assignment, it just says script, and you should just end up with a blank Google document. I gave you a spot in this where you can list the characters' names and describe them, and then under that you can just type your script. So step 4, and again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask to the side. Remember, there is a slight delay, but I'll make sure I answer all of those. Is anyone confused thus far from the steps? Okay, I'll keep going. Your 4th step is your soundtrack. This is the step I think would be the most fun. I put examples for the Crow soundtrack and the Armageddon soundtrack. If you had grown up in the 90s, these would be 2 of the more common soundtracks that people owned. For this, you don't need any art. All you really have to do is give me a list of 10 songs that you think relate to the plot or theme of your story. So for that, I think, again, I just gave you a Google slide for that. You could just type the name of your short film and then list 10 songs. Make sure you list the artist and the name of the song. So if you want Back in Black by AC/DC, type Back in Black and then AC/DC. But you don't have to, justify it. It should kind of just make sense. That's a lot. 10 songs? You should know 10 songs, Kennedy, I'm sure. Most soundtracks have at least 10. I used The Crow as an example because I think this is one I listened to a ton when I was a kid. And my sister had this one, so I heard it a lot blasting through the house as a teenager. But if you don't know 10 artists for some reason, you can always just go online and type in, top 10 bands or top 10 angry songs, sad songs, whichever would fit your theme or your plot, depending if you're making something sci-fi or if you're making something dramatic or like a love story, funny, whatever. You can kind of Google search for that. And you can never go wrong with AC/DC. You can always just pick 10 AC/DC songs and put them on there. I think the first or second Iron Man soundtrack is literally nothing except AC/DC songs, which, that just shows you can never go wrong with that band. And honestly, you could probably make up names of bands because I won't know many of your modern ones. So you could probably just make something up that sounds cool and I wouldn't know. If you wanted to do all fake band names and songs, that'd be kind of cool. Old school people. AC/DC is timeless, so I'll forget you said that. Anyways, the last step you have to do after you have everything else completed, you get to make your actual movie or movie trailer. Either way, it needs to be between 2 or 5 minutes long. I gave you the option for doing just a trailer if, say, your movie plot ends up spiraling kind of out of control and you want to make like this really long movie and you don't think you can condense it into 5 minutes. In that case, you would just make a movie trailer. If you want to do the short film route, and you can go on to YouTube and find a bunch of examples for this. In fact, earlier in the year, we watched a bunch in class. A lot of the animated ones that we watched in class, those are just short films. Like we showed you quite a few of them earlier in the year during intervention, kind of like to start things off. If you go onto YouTube, you can just type in short films, best short films, and a whole bunch should pop up. You can use that to kind of get an idea for what you might want to do. There are a lot of short films that someone films just completely by themselves using a phone, so it's only one character in the entire film. You can go that route also. Just go on YouTube, type in best short films, and you get a lot of ideas. That way you can be as creative as you want. You can be live action, so you can just use yourself as the main actor. If you want to include your parents, siblings, whatever, you can do that. If you want to create props, like you can use Legos, you can use paper towel rolls as lightsabers, create costumes out of paper. If you have masks from Halloween lying around, feel free to use that. Kind of just be as creative as you want. I did notice there were a few YouTube videos that kids made with Legos, so you could go that route also, kind of like a stop motion type thing. Feel free to do that. If you want to use stuffed animals as like puppets or something, you could go that route also. Just kind of be as creative as you want. And generally, anytime we do something creative, you guys always impress. There is no link for this on Google Classrooms. Instead, you can email the actual video or movie to my school email. Where's the thing? Right there. I'll just go into my work email, and then I'll share it with Miss Miller so she can watch also, and then we're great. So that is quite a few steps, and I ran through it kind of quick just to make sure that I would get through it all. But I would start just with the first one first off, right? Can't talk today. The movie outline. So with your movie outline, like I said, that means you're either going to do the storyboard, or you're going to do the graphic organizer where you list your characters, you list your conflict, and then you list your theme. Theme being the lesson you want to learn, conflict being what drives your plot. A lot of times these two are kind of intertwined, and once you pick your conflict, the theme's normally going to be very self-evident. So whatever movie you can think of, the theme's normally going to be pretty obvious. So something like Avengers, good versus evil, would be your theme. Something like Hunger Games, or what's the other one? Maze Runner. Anything like that is going to kind of be like fear of like society, or like man versus society, something along those lines. So any questions on this? Okay. And again, you don't have to do the storyboard and the graphic organizer. Just do one or the other. Whichever one helps you kind of develop your story, go that route. Okay, so I'll get rid of that. For your movie poster, I would definitely do this after you do the movie outline. I think the Superman example that I put up is a pretty good example, because if you were someone who's not a particularly great artist, all they really did was get a picture of glasses. The glasses kind of symbolize Superman because he takes his glasses off, and then all of a sudden he's Superman. And then they just give you the title, and they give you the main actor's name. So you could do something simplistic like that, or you could do something more artistic like the Shrek one, where you actually have the pictures of your main characters. You can also do something more collage-based, like this Masters of Universe one. There's a whole bunch of little pictures all over the place. For that, if your movie was going to be about, say, maybe zombies or a tornado or something like that, you could just find pictures of those events, and then make some fancy lettering and write the name of your story on it. Your script, pretty self-explanatory. Again, you just kind of have to type out what's happening. Your script, I know 5 minutes seems like a long time. You don't have to write in the script every event that happens, just the dialogue. So the script won't be super long in comparison to your movie. So if your movie is going to be like 5 minutes long, your script probably is only going to be about like 2 minutes of that, because you have a lot of action, people moving around, some parts of your movie where there's no talking taking place at all. So don't panic and think the script needs to be something like 10 pages. It'll probably end up being like 2. And it's not as long as even that would suggest, because each time a character starts to talk, you're on a new line. Your movie poster, again, we kind of just went over. Soundtrack, just any 10 songs is fine. Try to make them thematically in line with your story. Like if I pull up the Armageddon one, for example, all of the songs kind of go along with the story. Like if you just look at the titles, like Sweet Emotion, you guys probably don't know these bands or songs, but they kind of like relate to aspects of the story. Like I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. One of the characters has to like sacrifice himself to save everybody else, and it kind of goes along with that notion. Like, doesn't want to miss like everybody growing up and stuff when he sacrifices himself. Wish You Were There kind of goes along with that. Come Together kind of goes along with the idea that the whole group has to work together to destroy this asteroid that's coming at Earth. But you guys probably haven't seen The Crow, so I won't use that as an example. But just pick, like 10 songs. You can even go along the route of just picking 10 songs that you like. They can all be the same artist. They can all be different artists, however you choose to go about it. And lastly, for your short film, just use a cell phone, if nothing else. You can always use YouTube to create it. I use this program, OBS, to show you part of my screen while I'm showing you my face as well. This is the same program that Mr. Fitz uses. He's actually the one that showed me how to install it on my computer. So you could even download this and use this if you prefer. There's probably some other programs online that I'm not familiar with that would work as well. Just be creative. You could go as simplistic as just using your cell phone to record a short movie. It's supposed to be a fun assignment, but it's also supposed to demonstrate your understanding of theme, character development, and plot. So kind of encompasses everything we've been going over throughout the year, from like Ricky Tikki Tavi, which was I think the first big story that we read, to Anne Frank, which was the last large drama that we read at the end. So it kind of should interrelate all of those aspects. Does anyone have any questions? I know I spoke to Tristan a little bit about the comic assignment from last week. Hunter, I saw yours on there. That was kind of funny. I like the blah, blah, blah when I talk. I laughed. That was funny. It was a little short. Like 2 panels is kind of short. You might want to add to it, but I thought it was funny. I know there were like 6 people here, but not everybody talked. I know I need to mark you guys down so you get credit. So I know Nick, Hunter, Tristan, and Kennedy were here. The other 2 who came and I guess left didn't make a comment, so I'm not sure who they were. Any questions before we exit out of this? Okay, so make sure when you go onto Google Classrooms that you get started on this. I would use, like I said, I would start with the storyboard or plot diagram first. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in to the comments section or in the comment section on the actual Google Classroom. Sorry, I couldn't think there for a second. Hunter, you kind of just have to use what's there for the comic thing. I know there's not a ton of backgrounds. I thought it was clever. One thing that Nathaniel did was he just used blank backgrounds for a couple of the panels. So you could even just use a blank panel and say where you're at. You could just say like we're in a jail cell up top and have a blank background. You could do something like that. I wasn't sure if people would like the comic book storyboard thing, so I didn't buy any of the extras. It's just the freebie as an example. If it seems like it's something people will like next year, I can ask Miss Yingling to put that in the budget and we can use it more next year. But since it's so late in the year now, it doesn't make sense to ask her to unlock a bunch of it. Do you have any questions about the movie assignment? And this assignment I'm thinking will take a little bit longer, so if you don't get this done in a week, I'm okay with that. This will probably be like a 2-week style assignment. Next time we have class on Thursday, I'll go over the packet for week 3, and then I'll also answer any questions people have about the movie creation. I know a few people who are normally here aren't, so I'll probably have to go over just a couple basic questions anyways for that. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will sign off and I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. And again, feel free to ask any questions. A good job so far, and those of you who turned in your comics. Those of you who have not yet, you still have time to get to that. All right, talk to you all later.